Hello everybody, Gisele Grenier here. In this class, what we're going to be doing is building on the idea of making an artist creating card. We started off with just supplies and then we built something very simple. Now we're going to start building something a little bit more detailed as we go. So for this particular card, what I'm going to be introducing is collaging and embellishment. Okay, so let's go down to the table and I'm going to show you what I have, and then maybe you'll think of what the theme is for this one. So I've got my cardboard, which is 2.5 by 3.5 inches. That's the rule for the artist trading cards. I've got my gesso, my Decor Art Media gesso. I've got my Decor Art Heavy Gel Medium Gloss. That's what I'm going to be using for my glue for my embellishments. I've got my Decor Art Media Fluid Acrylics Carbon Black. Decor Art Dazzling Metallics Metallic Paint. This is copper. Love the copper. What else? I'm not going to need a stamp pad. I've got the Andy Skinner stencil. This is called Time Warp. And I've got my brush, my palette. I've got my black out here, right over there. And I've got these little embellishments. This is from my friend Laura, who sent me these pieces. I love watch pieces. She found these from, oh, look at all this stuff. So, and it started, oh, look at this little, so it started off where I tried to smash a watch that I had. I had this beautiful watch. It was rose gold. It was a few months ago and it stopped working. You can't change the battery. So I tried to smash it to take the pieces for watch pieces. I couldn't break the thing apart. So, and what I love is that when I get stuck on stuff is that people are so generous and sending me things. I absolutely love it. So all these little watch pieces. So I'm thinking I just have to pick what I'm looking for. And if you don't have watch pieces, don't worry. You can just go to use the button. You can use a button. So let's see. Bear with me. Oh, I like that. That's a nice piece right there. I like that. I want something a bit bigger though. Oh, right there. That. And that. There we go. Done. That's a Gumby Pokey Sticky out. There we go. Oh, thank you so much, Laura, for sending this stuff. Oh. So this is, come on. So this is metal embellishments. So the one thing is with metal embellishments, now, there. I can't get everything done again. I don't edit this stuff out because I want you to see exactly what stuff that happens in the studio, like chaos jumping on the table, and how I get around it. Because people, you know, in the beginning I used to edit all these little things out and people thought I created art perfect the first time. Pfft, are you kidding me? So I've got my watch piece. All right. So can you think of the theme yet? Time warp, watch pieces. What time is it? So it's time. Building on the last piece which was look up. Everybody's doing this on their phones. Look up time. So we're going to take time. I have a watch piece stuck in my hair. So what we're going to do is we're going to prepare the cardboard. We're going to paint it. We're going to stencil with some contrasting paint, and then we're going to glue the watch pieces on there. And like I said, if you don't have any watch pieces, then just use buttons, or you can look at a magazine for a picture of a watch. Google some image. Pixabay is great for stuff like that. Go to Graphics Fairy website, download a printable, which is legal, and you can cut out that. And you can just glue that instead. All right, so I'm going to be using the gesso first. We're going to be painting this black. Yes, we can use black gesso, but black gesso is so specialized, you don't need black gesso. White gesso is all you need. Okay, white gesso is all you need. And we're just basically going to be putting a layer. And all we're doing is putting enough of a layer to completely cover all the cardboard. Because otherwise, the paints, which are fluid acrylics is what I'm using, are just going to sink into the cardboard and because they're fluid, they're wet, the cardboard is probably going to turn. I just use a damp brush and that's it, done. And then put it aside to dry. All right. But black gesso, you don't really need it. It's I have it. I don't use it very often. I've got a card that's already made. So I've got my carbon black here. And for those of you that are saying, you're using black out of the container, I don't want to go over a beginner lesson on making a card and then throw in color mixing. Not yet. We'll get there, but not yet. So just black paint. Okay. And I can use the same brush or I can use my fingers. Doesn't matter. Just going to take black and I'm just going to paint the card. So you see, I'm not using any special fancy technique. I'm, scrubbing back and forth because I like that texture. And I wore a black and white top in case I got paint on my top that Joe wouldn't be able to tell. You guys must think Joe's an ogre. He's not. Every time I get paint on my clothes, especially with the phthalo colors, and then I don't notice it, and then it's too late to get the paint out. If it doesn't come out, he goes, great, we're going to buy you more clothes. I hate shopping for clothes. I hate it. So there we go. So we have some nice texture in there. And from here, let it air dry. You wouldn't just be making just one card. Make a few just to save you some time. But let it air dry, or you can use a heat gun or a hair dryer to dry. I already covered off how to do that in another video. So I'm just going to quickly dry this. Okay, so that's that. Put that aside. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our stencil and we're going to stencil the... I'm going to do it right here. We're going to stencil this on here, and we're going to use metallic paint. So this is new. So the thing with metallic paint is sometimes they're a little bit more transparent. So what you want to do is make sure that you've shaken this really, really well. I should have did this already. It was a new bottle. Shake it really, really, really well because you want to mix up all the binder to the actual metallic, whatever it is that they've used. And because if you squeeze it out, then you can actually see the binder separating from the metallic, then you didn't mix it enough and it's not going to look right. All right. So let's just find a nice thing. And if you don't have a stencil, a cloth type stencil, don't worry about it. You can even just go to the Graphics Fairy and do a search for clock faces, and you can just use that. So cut it out and just glue it onto your card, and maybe just put a light wash of the metallic paint. Because there's going to be a border, so I can go put the border right to the edge of the paper, like that. That way the whole stencil is going to be used. If I do it over here, it's going to leave a black border around, which I'm not going to like. So this is where you would also use masking tape. All right. Oh, now I'm going to be using J-cloth for this, or a kitchen, sorry, this is not a J-cloth, a kitchen wipe. So I'm just going to cut this to show you don't have to have fancy stencil brushes. Just a kitchen cloth, and you can even use baby wipes that have been dried. Okay. So a little bit in there. And I'm just tapping. Ooh, if I get this on my top, Joe's going to have my head. You don't want to put too much paint on your baby or your J-cloth or whatever it is you're using, because that's going to get underneath the stencil. So where the challenge is with this is getting right into the nooks and crannies of everything, which is why I only wrapped one layer around there. And see, this was way too much. I didn't need that much paint. Then I can also just take it like this and just tap, 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 and just be very careful because these your stencils are so delicate that you don't have to have a brush. Just be careful because they get caught, especially this one gets caught. And by doing this as well, you have to make sure you realize that you're not going to be getting into all the pieces. So I just turn that, see? Didn't get into everything. And I think my stencil shifted. So it's a good idea to tape it down if you're going to do a lot of stenciling. Tape it down. See this part here? I missed that part. A brush would have been able to get right in there. So with the brush, ooh. Okay, I guess I'm not using that one. I can just use a little bristle brush and just tap, tap, tap. So this will give me better detail than using the kitchen cloth, but it's a brush. Now, likely if you're watching this, you already have brushes in your arsenal. And bristle brushes are good for this because they're sturdy, they're workhorse brushes. Don't use expensive brushes to do this technique because you're gonna ruin them. I'm able to get into all the nooks and crannies. Just make sure that you don't put too much paint on there. See? There we go. Now, what happened there? Oh, I missed a spot. Okay, so let's see if I can fix this. You have to really line it up. There we go. Okay, that's that. Now, we really should clean that. I don't like cleaning stencils. A tip, have a container, plastic container, ready with water in it, and that way you can just take your stencils and just throw it in the water, and that way you don't have to spend time cleaning it during the creation process, which you guys know I hate. I hate interrupting my creation process. So from this now I have to dry it. I would take my time doing this part or let it air dry, it doesn't matter, but it's dry. Now we're going to collage our piece. So we can turn around and we can dry fit where we want this. So as I'm looking here, I'm going, not a lot of contrast. Not a lot of contrast. So what can we do to get some contrast in there? We can, we can build it up by putting a piece of paper in there, like to be behind here. We can paint these things, but it's metal, so you'd have to have alcohol ink to paint that. We're not going to go that far. I like my piece to be nice and broody. Nice broody. I'm thinking of broody. David Boreanaz. I'm probably not pronouncing his last name. The actor who played on Angel and SEAL Team and Bones, the FBI agent. Oh, he's so hot. But broody, like dark theme. Okay, so the point now is to show you how to collage thick pieces like this. You can use a brush. You can use a palette knife. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to use my brush. And I'm just going to put a nice thick application on here because I'm also going to be using this as texture. So that's going to also help create some contrast. You can put this on super thick. Now, if you don't have gel medium, then just use regular glue. Or if you're not even using clock pieces, you can just use whatever you want. So what I'm going to be doing is creating my piece where it's heavy on the gel here, and it's going to almost like a taper down into this area right here like so. This is going to dry crystal clear. Okay, so I'm going to put my one piece there. The other piece there. And let's get this little gear right there. Okay, and I'm only going to put 3 pieces, not 4. Composition, do everything in 3s, odd numbers. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit more around here. But you notice I didn't create a hard edge on this. It's uneven, and it fades out a little bit. So it's going to be nice and thick, and then it's going to fade out. This is going to take about a day to dry. All right, so that's that. So what's left to do after this is basically I can put a little sentiment here, and I can say what time is it. Okay, very simple. But what we're going to do is we're going to wait for this to dry. And then once it's dry, then I'm going to be putting my sentiment on, because I don't know if, depending on the look of this, I don't know if I'm going to want to do the actual sentiment on white paper with the copper color, or if I'm going to use black, or if I want to print it on my computer or use stamps. I don't know. I want to wait for this to be dried so I can make my decision once the piece is closer to looking the way it's going to look when it's finished. I think that makes sense. All right, so I will see you when this is dry. Alrighty, it's all dried. Looks amazing. Look at all that. Look at all that. So I was going to do some stamping on paper now, but I have these little cutouts, and I forgot about these. I picked these up at Lens Mill, which is it's a fabric place, and they also have a area of the store which is like I guess end runs and stuff from jobbers and stuff like that. And I've got these pieces. I got 2 packages, 99 cents for these little words. So I want to put it on here. Is it time yet? Now, these are adhesive, but because we have the modeling paste here, it might not stick. So I'm going to put it on. And if I find that it's just not sticking, then what I can do is I can use more modeling paste and just inset the words into that. So let me do that. There we go. And the letter stuck just fine. So finished. Now you can choose to stamp it, handwrite it, write it on paper, glue it down. It doesn't matter, whatever way you want to do it. I want to do something kind of oddball-y, kind of off, which is definitely off. And it's great. So we were able to create texture with the modeling, the gloss medium, embellishments on here, which are locked in, they're not going anywhere, and then just some texture with some cutouts. All right, so all that's left is basically to fill out the information on the back, name of the card, my name, and all that stuff, and it's ready to be given away for a swap, or just basically traded with somebody, just, you know, somebody else that made similar cards. All right, so I would love to see your version of this, so please post a picture in the community along with any questions that you might have, and I look forward to seeing what you create. So until I see you in the next class, stay inspired.